Hello, everybody. Hello, Out Louders. And my name is Rona Steinberg. And as many of you know, I have been rather busy over the past couple of years writing a book all about how to live out loud. And the subtitle of that is A Masterclass in Being Yourself. And the thing is that I've spent an awful lot of time thinking about what I think is the road to being out loud. But I'm really curious to know how other people feel about being out loud. And so in the run-up to the book's publication, which is the 24th of June, and I'll be giving details below on the page, I've decided to interview some out loud people. And the first person I would like to introduce you to today is Josephina Thomas, otherwise known as Jojo Thomas, which, as we can all agree, is the best name ever. Right, Jojo?
Well, thank you very much. I have nothing to say about that, but it touches my heart.
It touches your heart, which is a very good thing, because Jojo, I was thinking about what it takes to be identified as a truly out loud person. I think you're the personification of that. And we spoke about it before, and I think that it's not about being extrovert, or you might be an extrovert, and it's not about being very noisy, and it's not about always speaking your mind. It can be all of those things. I think more importantly, it's to do with being really very self-expressed, and also a willingness to show vulnerability and honesty about what is going on for you. I think that's really, really important. And it's also really important to have, and you brought it, you mentioned it, and it's there, a really good heart. And I think most people do. And you certainly do. So you are a coach, a public speaking coach and trainer. And of course, we work together quite closely in that realm. And you are also a writer. And not only that, many strings to your bow. You run writing workshops. And I have attended a few of your writing workshops, and they are fantastic.
Thank you.
And so I'd really love to know, what does being out loud mean to you?
Well, first things first, Rona. I was so touched and moved when you invited me to be interviewed in this run-up to your book. And it was just like having a lovely little mirror turned towards me, reminding me that I am out loud, and that that's the way that I want to live my life, very consciously. And the first things that come into my head are that I've had two really big out loud moments in my adult life.
Wow.
And one of them, you've heard the story before, and probably a few people that are watching this have heard the story before. But it's the story of how I came to wear this bright lipstick. And very, very briefly, what happened for me was that I was in a place of real unhappiness in my life. And I was going through a long period of therapy, which, thank you to the angels that sent me my beautiful therapist, who really helped me do a lot of work on who I was and who I wanted to be. But I was struggling somehow to realize everything that I wanted, to switch myself from that place of having dismantled my soul and my heart a little bit in therapy. And I was struggling to put it all back together in a way that felt clear and cohesive and that would allow me to move forward. And I had this crazy experience of having my colours analysed. And it seems like such a crazy thing, but I didn't wear any makeup at all before then. And I had a whole story I was telling myself about why makeup was bad for me and was a way to hide. And there's a whole long narrative that I'd created around that. But fundamentally, I didn't wear any at all, and I didn't want to wear any at all. And I thought I was going to find out that I should, wear pretty blue scarves, which I should and which I do. But the woman told me that I really had to wear lipstick. And I put the lipstick on, and I had a crazy out loud moment where what I saw projected on my face was the spirit of the little girl that I used to be, who was fully confident, fully out loud, non-apologetic, not afraid to be boisterous and bold and to cry and to be angry about things and to be fierce about things and to play with abandon. And suddenly I realized that the whole narrative I had going on in my head about not being like that came from other people, came from experiences that I'd had of being bullied and feeling too much. And honestly, putting on that lipstick for the first time, and it even sounds crazy to me as I say it now, was a truly out loud moment. It was a gateway for me from a sense of real lack of clarity and mediocrity within my own life and what I was doing, who I was doing it with. Let me do something different. Let me shine a different light on my path and go forward with who I want to be. And that was such a powerful moment. And still to this day, putting on my lipstick reminds me to be present in the world as the person I am.
I want to hear about the second. I just wanted to say, because often the things you say remind me of some other great insight, piece of wisdom. And a fundamental part, I think, of being out loud is reconnecting with the child within ourselves. And I often say, think back to that time in childhood when you felt most yourself. Because I think life tends to, not always, but often, life tends to create layers and layers and layers, and we disconnect with our true essence. And I love the way you say, when you put on the lipstick, it was you saw visibly this vibrant human being, but it reconnected you with that lovely little girl who was so full of life, so vibrant. So, I just like to notice that with you. Just resonate with you.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because it doesn't mean to say that you had a perfect childhood or that everything in those young days was glorious and great. I had my share of struggles, and that little girl had her share of things that started to weigh her down, but there was an essence there. That you said earlier something along the words of when you were most yourself, and I think what's so powerful about that in childhood is that you're not aware most yourself. You don't have a thought process around it. You just be. You just are. And that is what is just such a blessing to you. Powerful thing to come back to. You just get to be.
And can I ask you one more question to do with that? Side. Still got that other one on the notice board. So you had this amazing, almost epiphany moment, I think, for you, with the lipstick and what it still symbolises for you today. But not all of us know how to get there, to reconnect with the self. So I'm wondering, what what would your advice be? Because that seemed to be a big turning point for you, but almost by chance, maybe not by chance, we don't know. But what would you see as a person who expresses yourself so meaningfully, both through the way you speak, the way you, the way you frame words and deliver messages, and when you speak in public, and I've even seen you do stand up, which you're amazing at, and when you write. So that's your way, that might be your way in, another way in. But what would you say is a way in for people who think, oh yeah, I'd like that lipstick moment?
It's great, and I wish I could just give everyone a lipstick moment in their life. And you're actually right, it was an accident. For me, it was an accident because someone else invited me to go along to this colour analysis. But what I would say is that it wouldn't have, I don't think it would have had the impact it had if I hadn't done a big old chunk of therapy first.
Right. Yeah.
That therapy, and it was one-to-one therapy with an integrative counsellor, was profoundly world-changing. So my advice is, it's not necessarily to go to therapy, but it is, and I do advise to go to therapy.
Yeah.
I think it's damn healthy to spend some time exploring your inner self with help, because all of the pathways that I went down in that therapy process, I needed a guide on to feel really safe.
Yeah.
So to do some exploration away from the self-help books, or even I love meditation, but even away from the meditation with somebody, for me it was really profound. And then the colours I stumbled into, and they came at a moment when I needed a turbocharge, and they provided that. And I think a turbocharge can come in loads of different forms, but what was maybe most important about it was that I did something that I was resistant to. So I had this whole narrative about makeup, and I didn't want to put it on because I was looking at this stick of lipstick and it was glowing. It's like, this is ridiculous. It's luminous. It's bright. It's loud.
Right.
And what I've come to realize from that moment is, if I have a really strong resistance to something, if I feel heat in my chest, I don't want to do it, I probably should try it. Right. It won't always be perfect, but I probably should give it a go, because you know what's on the other side of that fear.
I think that's incredible wisdom, because there is something about being strongly resistant to something that's that push-pull. It's an attraction and a repulsion and it's kind of pulling, but I'm repelled. And yeah, there's something there definitely often that is calling us that we find quite difficult. And there's something there for us to learn. And in your case, it seemed to change your life, or restore you back to your life.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely, I'm happy to say it's changed my life.
Right. Wow.
Those leaps of faith is to know that they're also not always going to end well. So I was really lucky that the lip provided that turbo boost, but it makes me think that a couple of years ago I was on holiday and I was doing some sea kayaking, and it was fantastic fun, and the guide was like, it's a great little cliff jump here where you can jump into the sea. Do you want to do it? And I had that moment of, oh, hell no. The moment of, in which case, come on. Right. And it was a slightly like, oh, and I can do this. I'm hardcore. I'm brave. Right. I'll be the one. And the fact is, I landed badly, and I bruised my coccyx so badly that I could barely walk for 2 weeks. I mean, I was very lucky I didn't hurt myself better than that. But the leap of faith ended in quite a lot of pain. However, I still learned something from it. Right. And if I hadn't done it, I truly believe that I'd be still wandering around with that little bit of regret, saying,
I should have.
Brave.
Yeah.
So that feeling of flying was amazing until I was a bolly and, you know, bent my knees before I landed. So, but just to know that doing something scary won't always have a glorious, immediate, obvious, tangible, positive outcome. Sometimes it will, and sometimes it won't. And even if it doesn't, there was a huge amount of learning in there worth doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I love about where you're pointing, it's so on the money for Out Loud, because we're not in the business of making up the pretty stories about how life turns out. You know, you jump off the cliff top and it's all amazing and da-da-da. Actually, you can jump off the cliff top and you can really hurt yourself, and you can say, actually, I really never want to do that again. It's not for me. Because the whole thing about Out Loud is it's according to you. It's not according to anyone else. And if those things scare you, don't do it. Oh, absolutely. So you had another thing, or was that the thing?
No, the other thing, and it's so interesting to me that it comes back to something aesthetic.
Right. Interesting.
What that's all about. But it's having a terrible hair day today, but you can probably see that my hair is shot through with grey. And I've had grey hair coming in since my mid-teens. And of course I've been battling it off since my mid-20s with boxes of dye. And so almost 2 years ago now, I decided to stop doing that. And for me, this is now sort of 18 months worth of no dye and dramatic chop to get rid of those dark ends. And I've joined a community of women on social media who embrace their natural hair, be that curly, silver, whatever it is. And for me, that has been a very out loud thing, because so, you know, my mum comes from Latin America, culture where beauty is very highly prized, and where actually growing old is not looked down and not looked upon with great favour. So,
right? In South America?
Yeah. There's a great deal of impetus on looking young. So, you know, there's plenty of facelifts going around, and there's injections and Botox. and all this to say, I have no objection to any of that. I truly believe that the decision is what feels right for you.
Okay.
I don't object to people doing what they want to do with their own bodies. If you're not hurting somebody else, totally up to you. What I do object to is society telling me that signs of aging that are completely natural and that have been happening to me since I was a teenager are wrong, are ugly, are unfeminine, are letting myself go. So actually living with these grey curls, it hasn't been a single moment, it's been a long period of time. Is another way in which I feel I settle into a kind of out loudness.
It's more profound.
It's broader, it's wider, it's like a sort of sea of out loudness.
A sea of out loudness.
And sometimes there are big waves.
Yes.
And you're just gently doing a thing. You're just moving with the tide.
Yes.
You're allowing yourself to go with the flow a little bit. And actually that was the thing about the hair was, you know, what does my body want to do? And what would happen if I just allowed it to do that?
Right. And what comes up for me in all of well, perhaps in everything you're saying, is this piece around self-acceptance. It's so much of this is like, it's like tripped off the tongue. Self-acceptance. But it's a lifetime of work. It's a lifetime of work to really accept yourself for who you truly are, and let go of that nasty, nasty, cruel judgment, the judgment that, you know, not only comes from everybody else, society, as you say, but also we are fantastic judges of ourselves. And I wonder, you know, for you, you say, oh, that's interesting. Both of these examples that I'm giving have to do with the way I look, actually. You said the aesthetic, but with the way I look. And I wonder if you could just speak a little bit about that. What about, perhaps with your grey hair, what about that what was it about that felt really important? Feels like you let go of some kind of rule around how you were supposed to look.
Yeah, it's letting go of some rule, which is arbitrary in many ways, but it's also, it's connecting again to an inner knowledge of what I want. And actually, I wanted to go grey about 4 years ago. And I asked a few people, what do you think? Shall I give this a go?
Right.
Some very, very loud no's.
Really?
Real voices of, God, please don't do that. Yeah, really strong. And I listened to them back then.
And what was in the please don't do that? What was it that they were pleading with you not to do?
So I think there was a sense, I mean, they absolutely came from a place of love for me, those no's.
Get it, absolutely.
Yeah, and there was just a sense that, I mean, one person was a hairdresser and just gave me some very practical advice that if I wanted to transition one day to the next, that wasn't possible. And bleaching my hair would be disastrous for it because it would be very yellow, and that won't be good on me. So one person was kind of giving me the advice that doing it chemically would be a disaster, which it would have been. And one very, very dear friend, I think, was just looking at me thinking, she's about to make a decision because she's not in a super great place in her life, and I don't think it's a healthy decision. I don't think it's a safe decision. And I think people can think that, well, they can just have their aesthetic point of view that you're going to look old and that's bad in some way. But also there's a sense of trying to protect people. Like, what does this mean about you? Are you giving up on life? Are you giving up on finding a good friend, being beautiful, you know, whatever it is?
Right.
And actually it wasn't giving up on anything at all, apart from buying bloody boxes of crap chemicals that I was putting on boots. That's all I was giving up. And
what were you claiming when? So you weren't giving up anything. What were you claiming then?
I was claiming, on a very practical level, time and liberation, not only from the act of dyeing my hair, but obsession with the stripe and grey down my head. You know, I would have been on this course with you going, oh God, there's 2 weeks growth there. So distracting to me on video conferences. I just felt like if I had the tiniest bit of grey going,
and what did that little bit of grey mean then?
Well, that's the funny thing, because when I actually stopped to ask myself that question, it didn't mean anything bad.
Right.
It was only that I was looking at it as wrong, not the image I was wanting to project, which was what? That I have naturally completely brown hair? I don't know. Why does that matter? I was making a decision based on something that didn't actually mean anything. I think we do that a lot. We do. We make decisions on someone else's set of parameters.
I do wonder whether underneath all of this, you know, desire to show up looking in a certain way and covering up our true selves, so that no one can see, is that is the shame, our own shameful feelings around who we really are, what we really look like, what we really think. That if people really saw who we really were, what would they think? And that's, it can lead to those shameful feelings.
Absolutely.
Mm. And my sense is with you, Jojo, and I think sadly we're going to have to stop in a second. My sense is with you that letting go of these rules and imposed ways of being has just freed you up massively.
I mean, profoundly so.
Mm.
I quit my job.
I quit my job.
Making me feel unhappy,
Mm.
and I trained to do something that would make me happy. And I stopped waiting for permission to be myself. I stopped waiting for someone else to give me the tick that said, yes, you can do this, yes, you can do that. Just sod it, let's have a go. No, who knows? Maybe you'll hurt yourself, and maybe you'll fly.
Yeah.
You don't know. Let's go for it.
Yeah, and maybe, oh my God, I'll be seen in all my beauty, or people will see that I have grey hair. And I mean, what's so silly in this case is that that whole they might see I'm old thing, by any by any standards, you are not old. And even if you were, who cares? And
the fact is, I don't feel old in a bad way.
Yeah.
I'm not that far off 40. It kind of feels fine. And you know what the thing is? It's always kind of felt fine from the age I was. I was letting other people dictate the idea that it wasn't.
Yeah, I know.
That's what out loud for me has thought about is just don't let all that outside stuff dictate what you want to do and who you want to be. And sometimes I want to be big and bold and loud and do stand up and stand on stage, and sometimes I want to be really quiet and introspective and calm, and sometimes I want to listen, and sometimes I want to talk, and all of that is okay.
Yeah,
all good.
And absolutely. So sadly, you and I could talk forever, as we know, but I do want to end on that note, because I think it's so important for people to realise that it's almost where we started from. Being out loud is not about being a noisy extrovert, but it can be.
Yeah.
Being in quiet, and every shade in between, every shade of colour in between is just as out loud. And it's very much about, as you say, giving yourself permission to be the person you are. Do what you want. Be who you are. Be seen for who you really are. So, Jojo, I really want to thank you. You are my first interviewee, and it's been an absolute joy, a rich discussion which I feel can take us to many, many places. And I think many people will gain a lot of inspiration from you. So,
I hope so. I hope so. I love you for your out loudness and your great celebration of out loudness in all its forms, and I'm really excited to hear what other people have to say about it.
Indeed. Let us know if you have any thoughts about your out loudness, or your struggles to be out loud, or what stops you, or what enhances you, what gives you liberation, what gives you permission. Please put a note below. We would love to hear from you, and let's keep the conversation going. Remember, be out loud. Bye.